Hi there, it's Gabrielle Nicolay from SpeechKids and broadcasting live from my mobile office. Yes, my van parked in the back of a house where I have just come from seeing a most delicious person. And I had a question from a friend of mine the other day, and she said, "Why are you always so happy in your videos?" And I wanted to tell you why I'm so happy when I'm in my videos. And it's because your children are amazing creatures. And my children are also amazing creatures, but children in general are just amazing. And so every time I think about child development, child speech and language, anything to do with particularly very young children, it just like totally jazzes me up. And so that's why I'm always smiling, because when I think about what is going on with really young children, with your very young child, it gets me super excited. And that is what I love sharing with parents. And let me I'll take an example. Today, so I was working with a little one, and mom accidentally hit the light fixture over our heads. And this is a little person who's not talking a lot yet, but he's got a lot of just lovely gestures and expressions and really communicative. And so really what we're working on is like building some words into his existing communication. And she bonked the light switch over his head. And he looked at that, and he looked at us, and he looked back at the light and back at us. And it was just really clear and easy in that moment for the adults in the room to then put a little story around what had happened. Wow, that light wasn't moving, and then mama hit it and it was moving. And just that act of like framing reality for him and putting words around it and letting him know that we understood what he was thinking was a huge charge. And so it's just kind of a big deal. Now, the part that really, like, if you want to back it up a couple of steps, how is it that a child's brain registers all of that novelty? Like, why is that even interesting? How cool is it that this little guy's brain is thinking, wow, that's really neat, something different just happened. And it goes along with there's something that I talk about in my toddler talk class, which is that particularly toddlers are little scientists, right? But all kids really, they're little scientists. They're constantly engaged in like these scientific experiments, and their brains are really wired for novelty and new experiences. And so it's just amazing the amount of information that little people can process. If you think about it, when your child is born, they have basically, very limited sensory experiences, right? They're in a dark place, it's warm, it's cozy, it's all of that stuff, they're squished up. And then they come out into the world, and it's bright, and it's noisy, and it's cold, and it's hot, and it's all of these things. And yet, their little brains can like process their way through all of these novel experiences. And so I don't know, it really gets me going. So I'm not sure that, there's a do today, except that when you look at your child, actually here's the do for you guys. When you look at your child playing today, just know and realize, try to see how much is going on under the surface. There is so much going on. Another thing I talk about in Toddler Talk is the idea that children and child development is really like robust as a process, right? It looks effortless. It looks easy. But if you take even a half a step back and look at all the stuff that's happening that has to happen for a child to like learn something new, or even just to like move a toy from the floor into their mouths, which, as we know, young children are constantly mouthing things. And why is that? Because their brains are wired for novelty, and they want to know, like, they want to have as much experience as possible with new things. And one of the ways they do that is through smell and touch and taste through their mouths. But there's just so much going on when a child is doing something as simple as bringing a toy to their mouths. So then think about, like, if you want to fast forward, learning to ride a bike. How do they even do that? There are so many systems at work, and yet there's a fairly predictable process, right? Child development unfolds in a really predictable way. And it doesn't look that complicated, except that it's really, really intricate. And it's sometimes not until something isn't going quite right that we realize how intricate child development is. So, the vast majority of kids, they develop sort of on this developmental timeline, and everything seems to go well, and it's super easy. And there's a predictable series of events, and it looks sort of whatever, pedestrian, right? When you see a child who's struggling in one or more areas, you start to realize, and you have to sort of unfold what's going on, you start to realize how complex and miraculous child development actually is. So I think that's the other reason why I smile when I do these videos, is because every day in my work I get to witness how miraculous and complex child development is, and I get to fill in the pieces and help parents fill in the pieces for their kids. And that just, again, lights me up. I have a favor to ask. If you know somebody who would benefit from seeing these videos, go ahead and share it with them. I would love that. And also you can tell people I am here every Tuesday and Friday at 10 o'clock doing Facebook Lives. If people have questions, they can submit them in advance on the website. They can private message me, or they can ask them during the Facebook Live. And I would love for, just if you have somebody in mind who you think could really stand to hear some of this information, or who has questions about their child's speech and language development, I would love it if you would share. So that's my request. And thanks for being here, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.